history with God is that you have to be one of the spirits that has chosen God over heaven and earth and do not fear hell during the period when you were in the spirit world or before you were born to this worldly life. The chemistry with God is that God should remember you, love you and be pleased with you in order you can remember God, love God and pleasing to God. When a man asks God for something of which he is not worthy, God does not grant it to him. One cannot ask God for everything that is good, for one can ask him only in accordance with one's worth. If thou art worthy thou shalt have whatever thou askest and more, for if thy part is to plead and pray, his is simply to give. What reasons canst thou bring? He will bestow if he so desires. We set no price on faith, for this jewel of faith is a gift. To protect your faith you ask protection from God against God, himself. God who give without a cause, may you be pleasing to the Lord and may you have a tranquil soul. Tranquil soul or the soul at peace or the reassured soul is a state of the human soul or self at which one attains peace and assurance, without having inclinations to sins. You have to change the carnal soul into a tranquil soul. You have to change the devil inside you into a Muslim. Sarpatic recited an incantation, and after 40 days the lovely Peri princess appeared, a beauty in describing whom the speaker is dumb. What do I say? To describe her is impossible. When Sarpatic looked at her from head to toe, he saw that she was placed inside his own bosom. He marveled at this and said, "How, O fair one, hast thou taken abode within me?" The lovely beauty answered, "I have been with thee since the first day. I am thy carnal soul, thou art seeking thyself. Why dost not thou make thy understanding see? If thou wilt only see, thou art the whole world. From without and within thou art its intimate." Asterisk. The sage said to her, "It is known regarding the soul that that base thing is a serpent or a dog or a swine. Thou art the fairest thing on earth or in heaven. With such beauty thou resemblest no man's soul." The Peri said to him, "If I am a Mara, I am 100 times worse than a swine or a dog. But when I become Mutmaina, heaven forbid that any man should think thus. When I have become Mutmaina, the cry of 'Return to thy Lord' comes from the court. Allah will say to the righteous, 'O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well pleased with him and well pleasing to him.'" Surah Al-Fajr 27-28. Now I am the soul, O peerless one. If I follow a devil, the faithful will call me a Mara, unless my devil becomes a Muslim. If a devil becomes a Muslim here, all will be well here. So much did that seeker toil until his soul became master of his self. Therefore whoever seeks the secret of his soul from the object of his desires must endure much toil along that road. Now, O son, thou art that which thou seekest. Allah's in thee, but thou art feeble in thy efforts. If thou workest manfully at the work of God, thou shalt be all, and thou shalt be a fellow inmate of the house. Thou art suddenly lost without thyself, for thou seekest thyself along this road. Thou art in love with thyself. Go then to thyself. Do not go out onto the plain, come home. From that love of home stems a pure faith, for the loved one is within a pure soul. Thou hast 6 sons, each of them without a peer. Each of thy sons is a lord of the conjunction, each of them like a whole world in his own art. One is the carnal soul, with his abode in the senses. One is Satan, with his thoughts fixed on vain imaginings. One is intelligence, and speaks of intelligible things. One is knowledge and seeks after ascertainable things. One is poverty and strives after privation, and one is the belief in God's oneness and seeks to find the whole in every essence. When these 6 shall have followed the commandment, they shall attain to the eternal presence. Since thou art Caliph until eternity to come, it is by thy grace that the world is filled with subtleties. Don the black robes of Caliph like Adam. Travel within thy breast as though it were the world. Like Keter set thy foot upon the road of the saints, so that the circling heavens may not overtake thee. Though the wax produces a bright light, yet it is always in pain and suffering without the honey. At first the wax was absorbed in the honey, and because of their oneness it had no thought of this and that. Afterwards, when it was taken away and removed from union with the honey, it whispered these words, What have I in common with candles? I have lived in oneness. What have I in common with the crowd? If I had not become a candle, I should still be together with the honey. When I became a candle and was parted from my beloved, God called me a light, but how long shall I burn? If I had remained with the honey, I should have been saved from all this burning. Story of the young sinner and the angels of hell that were in charge of him. I have read that on the day of judgment a young man will come forth and ask God for pardon. His sins are exceeding many, but the bounteous judge is on his side. The angels hurry him in front of them in order to deliver him up to the torments of hell. All at once a voice comes from the court of God, saying, "Why are you dragging him in this way?" Asterisk, they reply, "We are hurrying off with him in order to cast him into hell." The voice comes again, but speaking a riddle. "We two are together, strange to say. This you must not hear, that we two shall be together." Asterisk, asterisk, the angels have never heard such words. They have never witnessed such generosity. In awe they are all silent. They tremble and then become unconscious. The voice comes to the young man. "O distressed one, why dost thou stay? Come, flee from them." Asterisk, asterisk, the young man says, "O God, in such a place as this valley, which has neither beginning nor end, whither can I go to escape judgment? For here there is nowhere to escape to." The voice comes, "O thou who art drunk indeed, come, flee to us, thou shalt escape from everything." The young man says, "I dare not do this, for I have no coin but my helplessness, unless thou shouldst exercise thy grace and admit me behind the curtain of secrets." God covers him in his generosity and hides him from the people of the resurrection. He brings him to the blissful place of secrets. He brings him to the sanctum where God is seen. When the angels recover consciousness, they cannot see the young man on the road. They seek him everywhere but cannot find him. They hurry briskly in every direction. They say to God, "Whither is our prisoner gone? Is he lost in the world of eternity? We have searched through heaven and earth for him and have given up hope of finding him. Dost thou know, O God, whither he has departed? If thou wilt tell us not, our souls will have departed." There came a voice saying, "This is an act of our wisdom. He is behind the curtain of our sanctity. Since he has found rest with us, you have nothing more to do with him. Now he knows and we know eternally, and you must not interfere." Familiarity from preternity. The soul that has chosen God over heaven and earth in the spirit world before being born into this worldly life. Since God's kindness has given succor from eternity past, how then can strangers intervene? But first to the prophet as a guide there appears a son of kindness. If kindness chooses thee out, all thy failings will become virtues. He shows his face to thee so that thou mayest have nothing to do but to gaze upon it. Flee to God, flee from this world and flee to God. Islam teach that earth is a prison for believer. Do you have fun in prison? No, you cannot wait the day you are released from prison. In ancient prison you suffer torment or pain by the prison guard. In tasawwuf, this prison means opposing one's desire, as in you cannot do what you want because loving this world and loving God is like east and west. You may not desire other besides God because God has chosen your lot, portion in life, or provision. The love of God consists of seeking, yearning, and sincerity. Path of God is the path of love, generosity, being selfless, altruism, abasement, lowliness, humbleness, humility, helplessness, poverty, being needy of God. Altruism is the principle and practice of concern for the well-being and or happiness of other humans or animals. Feeding other although he himself is hungry. Burn everything in the heart except God. Love is freeing oneself except the beloved one can approach God, only when bareheaded. Headless means to cut the head of every desire deep in thought, immerse in God. Ignore everything else. The heart must both fear and burn for God. The tongue must inquire after and fear the road to him. If this be thy practice, despite thy vowness, that thou fearest and inquirest always, thy whole being will be occupied with this idea. The whole town of thy heart will adopt this practice, so that for a moment it may be possible to smell the scent thereof, but it can be smelt only with the nostrils of the soul. Thou wilt live a real life only when thy soul is in the presence of the beloved, and if thy life be outside this reckoning, with every breath there will be 100 curtains to thy reckoning. asterisk the path is within you proper sholet sweepest thy place of prayer with sighs. The prayer that is received into his presence has no concern with the pollution of worldly glory. Prayer will not draw back the veil of majesty till the servant comes forth front his defilement. As thy purity opens the door of prayer, so know that thy corruption locks it against thee. When wilt thou plant thy foot upon the heaven's roof? When drink wine from the angel's cup? How can God in his kindness take thee to himself, or freely accept thy prayers, while like an ass within this rotting mansion thy belly is full of food and thy loins of water? Fasting to be hungry and thirsty for God. How wilt thou ever see the Lord of the divine law, thy lower parts sunk in the water and thy nose in heaven? Thy beggar's food and cloak must both be pure, or thou wilt come to thy destruction in the dust. If food and raiment be not pure, how is thy prayer better than a handful of dust? Keep pure for the glory of God's service thy habitation and thy raiment and thy soul. The dog sweeps his lair with his tail, but thou sweepest not with sighs thy place of prayer. Though all thou hast be spotless, yet is all polluted before God. He who seeks him makes use first of a bath, for God accepts not the prayers of the unclean. And how canst thou perform thy neglected ablution so long as thy heart holds enmity and hatred? Thy envy, anger, avarice, desire, and covetousness, I marvel indeed if these will admit of thy coming to prayer. Till thou banishest envy from thy heart, thou wilt never be free from its evil workings. If thou hast not washed thyself free from blame, the mighty Lord will not receive thy prayer. But when thy heart draws thee out from thyself, then true prayer rises up from thy destitution. The whole of prayer lies in ablution and purification. Recovery from a grievous sickness depends on the use of remedies. Until thou sweep the path with the broom of naught, how canst thou enter the abode of except God? So long as thou art under the dominion of the 4, the 5 and the 6, thou shalt not taste of wine save from the jar of lust. Burn and destroy all else but God, in your heart. Cleanse thyself from everything but the true faith. The soul's kibla is the threshold of the Most High. The heart's uhud is the sanctuary of the One. At uhud devote thy life like Hamza, that so thou mayest taste the sweetness of the call to prayer. Come not in thy pride to prayer. Take shame to thyself and stand in awe of God. Him God receives in prayer who has no commanding dignity in his own eyes. Helpless, thou wilt be received with kindness. Wanting for nothing, thy prayer will not be accepted. Wanting for nothing, if thou give thyself the trouble of prayer, thou shalt consume thy liver fried in the pan with onions. But if along with prayer goes helplessness, the hand of kindness shall raise the veil of the secret. Then, speeding into the court of God's kindness, he renders what is due, he obtains what he sought. And if it be not so, Iblis will hear thee when thou art at prayer, and drag thee forth again. Thou camest abject, thy prayer is honored. Thou camest as a raw youth, thy prayer is as one of venerable age. Know, that the 17 oz of prayer given forth from the soul's heart are a kingdom of 18,000 worlds. A kingdom of 18,000 worlds belongs to him who performs the 17 oz, and say not that this reckoning is too small, for 17 is not far from 18. Thy self-esteem utters no prayer, for it sees no profit for thee in religion. While thy self-esteem guides the reins, I doubt indeed if it will ever come where Gabriel is. Thy prayer will not admit thee to God if thou hast not purified thyself in indigence. Thy purification ties in lowliness and selflessness, thy atonement in the slaughter of thyself. And when thou hast slain thyself upon the path, God's favor will quickly manifest itself. Come in thy poverty if thou wouldst find admission, and if thou do not so, then thou wilt quickly find thyself trebly divorced. For the prayer that is received into his presence has no concern with the pollution of worldly glory. When death drags forth thy life, then from thy indigence there springs true prayer. When thy body has gone to the dust and spirit to the skies, then mayest thou see thy soul engaged, as angels are, in prayer. When thou enterest into prayer in sincerity, thou wilt come forth from prayer with all thy desire obtained, but if without sincerity thou offer 100 salutations, thou art still a bungler, thy work a failure. One salutation is the same as 201 prostration in sincerity is worth thy standing erect 100 times, for the prayer that is mere matter of custom is dust that is scattered by the wind. The prayers that reach God's court are those that the soul prays. The mere mimic is ever a mendicant, praying unworthily, without intelligence, since he chooses the path of folly. For on this path prayer of the Spirit is of more account than barren mimicry. When thou callest on God, bring supplication meet for him, that his good pleasure may receive thee. From time to time, divided from the real and bound up in the phenomenal, thou comest to pray the obligatory prayers, calling not on God, without self-abasement, without humility, thou carelessly performest a or two. Thou deemest it prayer, I marvel if thou art listened to at all. Thou comest before God in thy pride, how shall God hear thee when thou callest? Let thy prayer be free from self, 7 deadly sins, and he will accept it as pure. If it be smirched with self, he will not receive it. The message that the tongue of anguish utters is an envoy from this world of men to him. When it is thy helplessness that sends the messenger, thy cry is, O Lord, and his is, Here am I, as a proud lord marches to the arms of his servants and slaves, so thou layest the load of obligation on him. I am thy friend, sayest thou, honor be mine. Thou deemest thyself a friend, not a slave. Is this the manner of a man of wisdom? Better were it, O son, that thou offer not such service to him. Go, strive not with him. Without right guidance man is less than a beast. Whoso is without guidance labors in vain. Have done with this service, thou fool. Never again call thyself a slave. If thou wert mighty in the world thou wouldst say what Pharaoh did, every word. Who in his surpassing fatuity, and his supreme insolence and folly, averse from service and submission, drew aside the veil from before his deeds, saying, I am greater than the kings, I am above the princes of the world. All have this insolence and pride. Pharaoh's words are instinct in everyone, but daring not through fear to utter their secret, they hide it away even from themselves. He is clever in the extreme but deaf and dumb. Such a person, if it is proved that he is such, his existence is tantamount to non-existence. Use knowledge to reach the door of God, but be silent and dumb. Throw away reason, when you reach his door, and be a lover of God. A fool that is in love with God and turning away from this worldly life. A slave is asked what job that you want to do, which room do you want to stay, and what food that you want to eat. The slave said that it is up to his master to decide, and he has no desire except what his master desire. His happiness lies in pleasing his master. It is empathy. Do not be angry to be angry. Oppose God. Decree no desire and passion, because God has chosen for you. He want you to be content with nothing except him, because he want you to only desire him and only attach your heart to him. Are you not content with God? God created thee for himself. He redeemed thy soul and property from thee. But thou art concerned only with thyself. In self-regard thou art worse than Satan. With thy existence God gave thee 100 treasures. In thy drunken state thou hast spent them all in the company of Satan. God called thee to be with him forever, but thou hast gone out after Satan. God sees every single one of thy deeds. But thou, like a mote, followest thy own desire. Thou hast wasted all of thy life in this world, for thou hast never appreciated its true worth. But wait, perhaps on this road the veil will suddenly fall from thy eyes. When thy disgrace is revealed to thee, thy soul will be consumed in the fire of confusion. For if wealth come to thee from the world, it will keep thee apart from God. Of what value is worldly wealth if thou art parted for a time from God? If wealth keep thee apart from God, it would be better if it did not exist at all. Having been waylaid by the pleasures of the world, how shalt thou be an idol breaker for the faith?